Well, good morning and welcome to Real WW Talk. I'm Erin.
I'm Candace.
I'm Rikki.
So, we haven't been together with each other for the past 2 weeks. Why haven't we been together for the past? Oh, it was your fault, Candace.
Yeah, it was my fault this time. I had a virtual walk that I had to do with one of my other groups that
That's
was
right.
exactly at this time, but it was healthy. It was a walk for healthy living. So
Yes. Listen, if we ever have to skip, we got to skip for a walk. That's
a good
okay.
reason. Yeah.
How was your walk?
It was great. It was great. We are the Links Incorporated. It's a group that I've been in since 2006, and we um do a lot of philanthropy and reaching out and talking about things that are pertinent to the African American community. And, health is something that is a big, with coronavirus, they've talked about the disparities between the African American community and other populations in terms of getting it and passing away. So we did a focus on healthy living and on making choices that are intentional. And we do a walk every single year. So the walk fell on Saturday. We did 3 miles and we all took pictures. And so I'm the co-chair for that group and it was wonderful. So my mom's the other one. So she was like, you can't miss it, Candy. I said, okay.
Can we just celebrate, though, that you are the co chair of a walk?
Yeah.
Because I know with all of us with our struggles, I have a feeling like being co-chair of a 5K or something like that is not something any of us would ever picture for ourselves, right?
No.
Or like that we'd be here at that place of a wellness that we'd feel confident to do that.
I think it's more when they always talk about, because obesity is one of the measures that we talk about and how can we impact that? What kind of programming can we do? And I kind of feel a little weird when I'm like, yes, because obesity is really not a good thing. And I would love to be able to be the face for the fight against obesity, being that I haven't actually conquered it myself. But okay, sure.
But that's the thing, is it's the fight. It's not the conquering of it. And that is what makes it approachable for other people, because they go, look at Candace and look at how she's been fighting for her health, even to be able to conceive her son. And now with her son being a role model to him. Yes, that's fight. It doesn't mean conquer.
That's true. So I've been learning to reframe and renew my mind and change that. So, but how were you all? How did you all do last week since we didn't talk? I missed you guys.
I feel like it's definitely been, some ups and some downs. I have enjoyed the cooler weather, and I feel like I was still getting out there and walking when it was hot, but it was harder to do. And now it's just like, I feel like I'm not sweating as much. I'm not as worried about that piece of it. And I feel more comfortable. So walking a little bit further. Last weekend, I went with a friend and we walked a trail that I hadn't walked in a while. And we did, I want to say we did a little over 3 miles. So that was really nice, just to unexpectedly get that amount of steps in and just on a regular day. So that's been good.
Yay. I've been pretty just work obsessed right now because we've got a couple big things on the plate and still trying to, do some pivoting and whatnot. But I went for a walk once, which was just sad, disappointing for myself. So I think what I'm still always trying to correct, and it's just something that I noticed as a pattern for myself, is that I get my life upside down, and I enjoy, that's the thing, is I enjoy working, and work is what I have. It's not what I have, but it's the thing that takes up probably the most predominant part of my life. Right. But I don't always keep it within the boundary probably that I should. And so when the day is done, my thoughts are still there. They're not disconnected from it. And I caught myself like yesterday getting a little upset with my family because they were talking to me while I was still trying to process work and decompress from things that I was thinking about from work. And I thought, you are a horrible person, Erin, because your family is trying to have a conversation with you. And that's the most important thing in your world, should be the most important thing in your world. And you're irritated that they're talking to you. It's just so bad. So so that's a constant reframing that I have to keep working on. And then also like not allowing myself to be so exhausted by it that I can't go for a walk in the evening. Cause I've got my Wonder Woman 5K to do, and I want my Wonder Woman 5K to, be better than what my what's the one that's in June
The Yoda
that we do? Not the Yoda.
The Baltimore Women's Classic?
That's it. The Baltimore Women's Classic. I want it to be better than that because I actually had to split that one up into two sections. And I'm like, I should be able to do a 5K in one fell swoop. Like, that's not good. So, and I'll be able to do it. I just want to have a good time doing it. Like literally a good time at the end of it, but also a good time. So, but I kept up with food this week. I kept management on my food. I've maintained. So that's good. I can put pants on that aren't elastic waistband and they fit. So that's like my barometer right now is do my pants fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Clothes are always it's always the measure. It always that's a big one.
So you guys Marco Polo'd over the past 2 weeks. I'm not on Marco Polo. I have to get on Marco Polo, but at the same point, like I also know what my bandwidth is too, and I'm probably not the best person at the moment for it. But so I've really missed you guys. Yeah. I've missed having conversations with you over the 2 weeks, and I just started thinking through like, we haven't talked, and what does that look like when you don't have your support system over that time, whether you're choosing to engage or not engage with it. I know that you guys are there and I could reach out anytime, but I also know not that I didn't need to reach out. I don't mean it in that way because I wasn't, I hate the phrase falling off the wagon, but it wasn't that. If I reached out, it would be because I just love you too and I care about you. Yeah. And I do love you and I do care about you whether I reach out or not. And I know that you know that.
Life gets in the way.
It does. So what did you guys talk about over the course of those 2 weeks?
One thing, and just to give a little bit of background on Marco Polo and why Rikki and I started talking is, with WW, the structure is once a week, every Saturday for us. You come in and you have a big powwow and you talk about your feelings, talk about your food, and you weigh in, and then I'll see you next week. And there's supposed to be all these resources that you have throughout the week. But kind of like what Erin just said, sometimes you reach out, sometimes you use them, sometimes you don't. And I found that I need more support immediately in the moment when I'm making decisions because I'm still it's not that I'm in the infancy of my program, but I've been working on changing my mindset. And some of these things that I'm dealing with are coming up quickly. So Rikki and I kind of will share in the moment, like, right now I'm feeling like I'd like to have this. And I just wanted to let you know, and this is how I'm processing. And because it's not kind of like FaceTime where you're waiting for the person to talk, you can say everything you need to say. They can look at it and process and then respond. So, I don't know. It's like a confessional that you say it all and then you want to go run and you wait for the other person to say something. So we've been using that. But one of the things that has been coming up, because I think you asked what were we talking about, right, Erin? I've been really focused on my boundaries. So, I realized that my challenge with weight loss has been not necessarily that I don't feel like I can eat what I want. That's not my issue. My issue is I don't want to stay within the confines of, for Weight Watchers or WW, the points that I'm given. If I'm given 42 points a day, I want to eat 82 because I've accepted that I can have what I want, but I don't like the limit of I can have half a cup or I can have this and this. So really working on that this week and talking to Rikki and sharing. Even Erin, I was thinking about you had shared a resource that was called I Deserve a Donut, which is it's like an app that talks about, for those who are spiritual, or I don't even want to say spiritual, but are believers, they do have different quotes that they'll show you biblically that relate to the principle that they're trying to teach. But they talked about boundaries and why it is that, what are you telling yourself about why it's okay for you to go outside of your boundary? And it's been hard. It's been hard this week, but I've seen the rewards of it because I lost 4.8 this week. And I say that because I'm not necessarily trying to focus on the number, but the reinforcement of the fact that boundaries are important, and that if you stay within them, the outcome is something I'm proud of. It's hard every day, but there really is a win with
And
it.
it doesn't mean it is awesome to get a reward for staying within the boundary. It doesn't mean that you're going to get that same reward every time you stay in the boundary. But the reward itself is I stayed in the boundary and I'm conquering this. Like I'm actively doing this.
Yeah, that's amazing, Candace. It's really great that you're
so
able to do that
awesome.
this week.
Thank you.
What I think about too is just how, especially with the way the world is right now, there's so many no's in our lives. You know, we can't go out to the park. We can go for walks, but it's like if there's too many people there, you have to be careful. And we can't go to our favorite restaurants. We can't celebrate our birthdays the same way. There's so many no's right now, and hearing no was hard before this, especially as an only child. But like now hearing no at this point, it's like this is a way that fighting those boundaries, that mental is like kind of a mental game we play with ourselves. Like that's telling me no. A boundary saying, no, I can't have that extra this or that extra that. Do I really need it? Am I really hungry? Like all those questions come up, and then I tend to just push them to the side, when I'm in that headspace where I am wanting to fight those boundaries. But I think that's one thing that it does help to have that accountability to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is where I am. And when it's been put out there for a friend, accountability partner to hear, it's like, okay, it's not just in my head. I'm not the only one that knows about it. Somebody's going to check in with me and say, hey, did you end up going to the drive-thru? Or, hey, did you end up eating that extra, pumpkin bread or whatever it is? But I think having the accountability helps with, again, it's an internal thing that we do have to overcome ourselves, but having, while we're working on it, having that extra person to be like, hey, how are you doing?
And I think we're really good at using Erin, you'd be so proud. That's why you have to join us. We're non-judgmental. We're like, oh, so how do you feel about your choice? Since that's what you chose, there's no judgment. I don't feel judged. No. I think we've done a pretty good job, and it's genuine, to not be like, I can't believe you ate that, girl. You're crazy. What the heck? How much did you eat? Because that's the judgment that you run from, that can cause you to hide. And I think that I've been someone who hid in the past. So it's helpful to not hide from somebody.
Do you guys notice that when it comes to the boundaries, that what are maybe some of the triggers that are all of a sudden throwing up the boundary flag? Like I think of it as maybe like a fence, right? And we've got this giant piece of land that we can play in. But instead of playing in the middle where I can, have freedom to twirl, instead I'm like right up against the side of the fence and I'm trying to twirl, or I'm like getting too close or trying to dangle my arm over the side of the fence. And I don't know why that's more appealing, but have you guys noticed what are the things that are causing you to get to that fence instead of just staying and playing in the middle of the field?
I know for me, there's probably a few different ones, but the one that comes to mind first is one thing I work on in my heart is comparison. I see images of different things or images of people, eating whatever they want, or feeling, even if it's not an image, just feeling like, oh, I know there's that person who wears a size 2, but they eat, in my mind, they eat cheeseburgers every night, or it's like, well, why can't I? I feel like I've had to, especially as I've gotten older, become stricter with myself, especially because I do have, not only weight loss goals, but health goals that I want to achieve. There's some people, and it shouldn't be an external comparison, but I feel like, why is it so much easier for other people? And I go back to that, and that kind of frustrates me. Oh, that means it's hard for me. Why is it so hard for me? So that's part of the challenge for me.
And I can relate to what Rikki is saying, and it's something that I actually have been trying to actively work on, which is telling the truth. about others, because in the social media world, right, we all project one thing. So you may see that they eat the cheeseburger, but you don't know that they went for a run that morning, or that they had a salad for dinner or something. So we focus on what it is that we want, the narrative that we want to believe. And that's something that because I had a friend, I think we all have it, that friend who, oh, I just cannot gain weight. I mean, it's just so hard. I mean, I don't know what
Let me
it
help
is.
you.
And you're like, I will help you. But they just don't understand, right? And I used to say, well, it's just not fair, because she can eat whatever she wants. And I don't like the limit that I have to count points and have a fourth a cup of cotton candy when she can have the whole thing. I don't think it's fair. But she's like, well, when I don't really like cotton candy. I said, well, that's not the point. The point is that you could have it if you wanted to, and you don't have to do this. But she shared with me, you don't even know my struggle. She said, you don't know what my day is like. She said she has like an intestinal issue where if she eats certain foods, she gets sick. And I was like, oh, well, she's like, so you don't want everything that you think you understand. You don't know the whole story. So when you're comparing yourself to others, make sure you're really looking at everything. It's something that I personally am trying to do, because Rikki, just like you, I'll pick up on what I think I understand about what somebody else is going through and compare myself to their highlight reel, which isn't really their whole life.
Yeah.
No, and I think the more, like, something I've been trying to catch myself, like when I do that, I have to remind myself that God has created me. God has created me really uniquely. Same with you, Rikki, same with you, Candace. And that when I do that, I'm putting down the creation that God made. And it's the equivalent for me. Like, I think if Paul, my nephew, who's 4, came up to me and showed me something, really cute that he made. And I go, well, that's nice, but look at that over there. You could have done and I would never say that to him. But I say that to God all the time about myself. Instead, he's over here, but look, I made you to do this and this and this and this and this. And I only made you to do those things. And I'm like, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to eat pizza and not feel like I'm gonna puke.
Yeah.
But I totally identify with that. I recognize that. I think for me, like, getting too close to the fence it's deprivation, and it's not even comparison. I just want what they have. Like, it's just plain old, I want that. And why won't you give that to me, God? And I have that, okay, then I'm going to take it for myself. And that's completely wrong. So wrong. So that's something that I'm working on correcting myself. Like, okay, well, I'm gluten and dairy intolerant and I can't eat anything with almonds or I'll die. So, and I want that. Like, I just, right now it's pumpkin season, and everything with pumpkin season has pecans in it, and I want it and I can't have it. And so I want to go make and create and take for myself what's not being given to me. And that's not okay.
So you're wanting things that for health reasons you cannot have, not for, I'm labeling it as something
good or bad,
off limits.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a pure missing out. Like, you just realize how much of what we do centers around food. We've said this before, and WW tackles this, like, every holiday is based around food. We get together as friends, and what do? We go out and get food.
Break bread.
Right? Exactly. I mean, that's how Jesus connected with people in the Bible. We go and have dinners with them. And I'm over here, can I have the gluten-free loaf? And that it wasn't made with milk, right? Because otherwise I've got a problem there too.
Yeah, and it can't be almond milk.
No almond milk. Right?
Well, like, all they have to do is put the label. I know I've talked about this many times, but all someone has to do is say limited edition on a box of cereal or something. And I'm like, oh, and I literally will stand in the store having a mental dilemma. Like, okay, well, that means it could be gone the next time I come in the store. Do I really want this? It's not on my list. It's not something I need, but it's limited edition. It may not be back next week. It may not be back next year. And then there's this whole struggle that goes on. A lot of times I end up buying it, spending money I didn't plan on spending, and then points we don't even know at that point, did I even scan it to see how many points it is? So like that challenge too of knowing that like you said, Erin, food is something we gather together with, but seasonally there's certain things that come along and that make us, I don't know, I think it is kind of like a sentimental thing. Like fall is one of my favorite seasons. So the pumpkin comes out and I'm like, it's fall. And that association, I think endorphins already are just flooding in our minds, anyone who is also a fan of that season. So I think sometimes that really can be a challenge too.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, do you feel like you've missed out? You feel like you haven't been part of it if you don't do, XYZ. It's your memories that go with it. And right now in 2020, right? Like we're looking for comfort because everything is so upside down. And like we were just talking about Thanksgiving. What is Thanksgiving going to look like this year? Because we know that our entire family is not going to be getting together. My grandparents are in their mid 80s. My cousin has a newborn. So she's like you, Candace, where, she's really obviously, making sure that her family stays safe there. My mom has type 2 diabetes. So all of us, my aunt has leukemia. Making sure that everybody stays well and stays healthy. That's a priority.
Yeah.
But that messes up with our memories of what it's going to be. That doesn't mean I think it is, we're always reaching back to pull in instead of reaching forward to pull up. It's easier, I think, to reach back than it is to reach forward and pull up. It's a different muscle. At least that's something that I've noticed inside of me.
Yeah, definitely. I was trying to think while you all were talking too about what my boundary issue is, because I relate to both of the boundary issues that you all established for yourself. It's interesting with mine. I don't know how to say it. Mine is, I told you, limited to volume of food. That's why I was asking you, Erin, to clarify if yours was just that you can't have certain ones. Mine is, I don't like the fact that I have to stop at a certain point. So whether it's a piece of cake, it's not very helpful for me for someone to say, well, you could have half of a piece of cake. And I'm like, and and that, because the first bite tastes just as good as the last. And
it doesn't.
All of that sounds very nice, but for me, I'm like, it's good. I want to eat the whole slice. And the whole slice is this many points, right? And I understand that half a slice is half of that, and that should be good. And a good little WW person would be proud of that. But I feel limited. And so I make those choices early on in the week, which is why I bring up the weekend to have the indulgent. I'm going to have all of it. And then I run out of my weeklies or my other things. And it gets me in that corner to where, as the week is going on, I don't have that option anymore if I want to be technically on plan, and I feel limited. I feel it's almost like when you get your paycheck, and you get paid and you get $2,000 or however much you get in your paycheck, and you spend it all. What do they tell you? Don't spend your whole paycheck in the first day you get it. You got to pay all of your bills, but that discipline makes me upset. And I don't know why. I really can't answer definitively, other than the fact that I feel like I want to, I have not bought into this whole, it's okay to just have a little of something. I haven't bought into that. I want the whole thing.
Why have a little when you can have it all?
Yeah, it's good. So why would I eat only a third of it? Why?
Well, I have a question for you, Candice. I know some of the foods that you're talking about aren't necessarily things that would be like 0 points on blue, but a couple weeks ago you were on green, right? Yeah. And one of the things you shared on Marco Polo is you're switching back to blue. Do you feel like?
Hold on, that's I know I'm not glued into.
It's not.
You moved back to blue?
Yeah, I switched back to blue.
Okay.
And it's funny because go ahead, Rikki.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, because I guess I'm thinking a little bit more of purple, because purple is the one where you don't have to track hard like a lot of anything, but you are tracking less, right, with blue. So I kind of heard that in what you were saying about the boundaries and about quantity, like being able to have the quantity. There's with having, do you find that now having certain foods that you don't have to track, it's like, okay, chicken is now 0 and eggs is 0 again, versus green, which I'm one where I am tracking chicken and eggs, things like that.
I think I just had a moral, I feel it's just wrong to have to count for chicken and eggs. I mean, it just feels wrong in my spirit. I really bought into that eggs and chicken were free. It is not what I'm overindulging on, Rikki. So I'm not like, thank God it's 0 points. Give me all the eggs. My stuff tend to be sweets or, all of that. But I think it was messing with my head on green. I was getting so annoyed. I was like, chicken, 3. I don't understand. I just don't understand. I know I get more points. I just don't understand. This is the dumbest thing ever. And I went back to blue and I felt better about it. Because for me, I bought into the chicken being free. The chicken breast, boneless, skinless, with nothing on it. It's 3 points. I mean, it's 0 points now again. So yeah, but my stuff is more the sweets and the things that are, kind of more indulgent for me. So I don't know how to tell myself like I said, I really have not bought into the first bite is as good as the last.
Do you think it could be, as I'm listening to you talk, it really comes down to so we don't feel that way around chicken and eggs, right? Because we feel like we've got freedom to eat those things, right? Yeah. We can eat them whatever we want, and there's really not a consequence if we eat them. But when it comes to other things like the cakes and the cookies or, those kind of things, we've put them on a restriction bubble, right? You only eat those things on special occasions. You only eat them after you've had dinner and you've eaten all your dinner. You only eat them during a special time, right? As opposed to you can eat chicken whenever you want. You can eat eggs whenever you want. There's complete freedom surrounding it. Do you think that maybe the struggle comes in because we have placed an unfair expectation on when those things have to be consumed and the quantity that they have to be consumed, that actually could be playing into that feeling of the restriction or that boundary?
I think that what's hitting me more is a slice of cake is 42 points.
Yeah.
Okay. So WW is very smart in saying you have all these points, but the one thing that you want, like if you decide to have it, is so pointy that if you are doing the plan as designed, you cannot have but so much, right? So for me, the boundary is already, it's like it's placed on it based on the value that's given to it. So it's not necessarily that it's a seasonal thing but it's more, I don't like the fact that I know that if I have a piece of it, that 42 points are gone, that 26 points are gone. And that in and of itself is saying I can't have more. And it makes me want to just go outside of it. Like, it's like, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to do. I don't appreciate that. I don't care if I get 42 points a day and that was all of my 42. I'm just going to use my weekly, and then the weeklies are gone. And it's like, well, I'm not going to stop eating cake just because you want them to be too many points. So I don't know, but I know that it's a big part of my journey that I'm going to have to work on, because it's the one thing that trips me up consistently. It's the stopping after I've had the piece, it's stopping after I've had the slice and being contented in that one thing. And I think I've gotten used to going over. I've gotten used to doing my plan. I've gotten used to having to figure out how to make it work instead of, I don't know how to find, like, I don't know how to be content in just a little bit.
I think at a certain point too, like there is a chemical reaction. Like I have the same struggle. If I have a whole cake in the house, I would make myself sick. And I've done that before, where it's like, I want to eat until it's gone. No matter how much it is, my eye, my eyes are bigger than my stomach. I know my stomach and my brain knows that that's too much for me to eat. But for some reason, I want to eat until it's gone. And I think some of that is learned, but I think some of that, there's a response to having the sugar in my body, and my brain is like, more, just keep eating more. I think that's a huge part of it.
Well,
That's so true.
There have been the studies that have shown what happens when you consume sugar, and it has the same effect in the brain as someone who takes a hit of cocaine. Like it does produce that same dopamine response, and then it is the crash and like, I need more to stay up here. And it does produce a drug-like reaction in us. I mean, you guys, you've done like Whole30, same thing as me, where, okay, we're not going to do any sugar for how long? And I can feel the difference in me by not being on it. My food cravings are different right now because I don't do any typical sugar and I'm not doing any of the typical processed stuff things, right? Like my body can't do them. I think that's where it's gotten very clear for me too on why I want some of those things so much that I want to go take them, right? Because I'm not getting that hit over here. I think we talked about a couple weeks back, I told you, like, I went to Dunkin' Donuts and found out that their mocha swirl is gluten-free and dairy-free. And it was the first like full-on real sugar that I've had in so long. And I felt that lift from drinking it. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've missed this. And I'm like, but at the same point, I can't keep doing this because this is going to be terrible for me. It's going to be terrible.
Well, to make it through the weekend last week, when I was talking about this past week and how I made the choice to be very intentional about not staying away from sugar, but making sure that I was staying within my points and everything. So that made me make different choices, right? And I did great up until Wednesday when I did give in, kind of like what you're talking about, Erin, and I had a little more sugar in my system. And it really did, to Rikki's point, I think it caused a chemical reaction to where I was like, my highest point days were Wednesday through Friday. And it was all of the extra points were on sugary things. So it's not to say that you can't ever have sugar, but I think being aware of that and it's something that I do have to just accept. If you're going to make that choice, know that you're going to have to really kind of rein in, because there's a reason why those things are made that way. Manufacturers know what they're doing. I mean, there's a book, I can't remember what it is, but it says that in all the foods that we love, you either love it for the combination of three things: fat, sugar, and salt. It's some ratio of those that is making it so amazing. And they're very smart, the food industry, figuring out what is the ratio that gets you addicted. It gets you to the point where you're like, I have to have a Cinnabon. I have to have it. It's something about the fat and the sugar and it's good. And it's good because they made it good. And
there's the learned piece of it too. Like, as a kid, when you were crying or, you felt like, how many times did you get a lollipop or you get a shot and I don't know if doctors still do this for kids, but, the doctor might give you a lollipop. Hopefully, maybe now it's just stickers. But I mean, so many things start at such a young age as food rewards. And your birthday, your first birthday, you get the cake. Not to say those things are bad, but when it's combined with that, like, some of us might be more prone to addiction and some of us might be less, have other things that they suffer through with addiction. But, if we already have that chemical reaction to sugar, and then we grow and we have that pairing with the learned, this is a reward. It's just this horrible combination that we have to now overcome.
Candice, you said something. I want to rewind, because you said everything was going good until Wednesday when you did it. Do you think that Thursday and Friday would have been different if come Wednesday you had planned to eat that cake as a like taking off like it's a bad thing? So I don't know what your plan was for the week, but if you had set out, okay, this week I am only going to do this and that there's going to be no sweets, then yes, that would be failure, right? Sure. And I'm saying that in air quotes, sure, because you weren't sticking to what you had promised. But if it's something where the opportunity came up and you ate it, but you hadn't necessarily planned for it, that can still feel like failure, but you know for you that you enjoy sweets. Is there a way that you can, like, you're actually more in, and I think it also sometimes goes back to control too. Like we feel out of control in that moment when we use that because we hadn't planned on it. But what if it was a planned on this day this week, I'm going to spend 25 points on a dessert.
Yeah.
And you plan what that dessert is. Do you think that that would have felt different?
Yes.
And do you think it would have been different on Thursday and Friday, or would planning it, even though you're planning it, would still trip you up Thursday and Friday?
No, I actually think the former. I think it would have been something that I felt, in control with, and that was great. And I had what I wanted. What usually trips me up, and I used to bring it up in the meeting room all the time, is unexpected. I'm a visual person. I might not have even been thinking about it, but oh my goodness, there's a venti caramel ribbon crunch that I get for free, or whatever it is. My point is, I wasn't thinking about it, but I'm triggered. And so I didn't know how, was not planning on having it. So I probably did label it as not bad, but indulgent. And the points told me it was indulgent, because by the time I was supposed to have it, or when it came up in my day, I was already almost not out of points, but I used enough, and I didn't have any weeklies left. So this decision is going to put me into the negative, and that is a bad thing. And now I've made this choice.
Have you ever tried planning the sweet, like planning that 25 points for the piece of cake, right? Or whatever, and had it planned out so that when something kind of comes up, like the caramel ribbon crunch, that you go, this looks amazing, but I've planned out Wednesday. And if I wanted to, I've got the 25 points set aside, I can do either or. Has that ever happened? And does that feel realistic, or does that feel like a WW solution that's really not for the week?
It's like, I'm going to have a Five Guys burger on Saturday, so I don't need this today. But no, I know what you're saying. It's true though. Sometimes that has worked for me, if I'm being honest. Yes, because it is a control thing. It's a control thing. I think that I have to be intentional about using that as a resource again, and growing up a little bit, not going back to our SciAT fitness guide, but sometimes you have to be an adult. And I think that's the thing, that if I'm being just blatantly honest, we can have all the tools in the world, but sometimes you're just going to have to say no to yourself. Like, we could color it whatever way we want, but no, not right now. Not right now. You could have it on Saturday.
I think you just said something powerful right there, though. You just said, you didn't say no. Full stop.
Right now.
No, comma, not right now. Because you gave yourself the option to be able to have that in the future. Just you're choosing for yourself in this moment. This isn't the right choice.
Yeah.
So can I just have, my mind is kind of being blown right now, because Erin, you said something that made me just be like, oh my gosh, why have I never thought of this? And it may have been something that's been mentioned before, but the Great Plate meeting, Thanksgiving, we always pre-track, even though it's Saturday, we pre-track for Thursday, and all of our weekly, they're just gone. Why have I never done that with because I know the weekend is a challenge. I know that a lot of times I'm overeating the weekend. What if right now, before my weeklies are gone, I track something for Wednesday or for Thursday, like a dessert, and I can change the day, but at least I have already taken those points away. I mean, it's a little bit tricky because it'll take it from my dailies today, but I'm sure there's a way to figure that out, because we do it for the Great Plate meeting, but I could track it.
Well, just track Wednesday, or just track Thursday.
Yeah. And
it'll just pull it from that day's.
Yeah.
On that day's stuff.
And why do we love the Great Plate meeting? Because you wake up that morning and you know that everything. And for those who don't know what the Great Plate meeting is,
I know.
Okay. They're like, what is this? Does anybody want to explain it? Because I'll talk all over myself.
It's the greatest meeting ever. And WW has done away with it. And so we're still very bitter about it. And we need to negotiate this year to bring it back. Rikki, since you brought it up, you tell.
Your turn.
I would love to. So every Thanksgiving, we used to get basically a placemat. We used to. See my attitude there. We would get a placemat that had a picture of a white plate, and it had, the place setting for Thanksgiving. So the idea was the Saturday before Thanksgiving, or whatever meeting you had before Thanksgiving, you would get out your pencil, whatever, pen, marker, whatever you want, and you would draw out what you anticipated having for Thanksgiving. So it usually started with us making a list of the points on, Noelle, or who, our former Weight Watcher leader would write down, okay, pumpkin pie, that's so-and-so, probably 40 something points, and sweet potato souffle is this many points, turkey, gravy, all of that we'd list. So then we'd all take a few minutes to draw on our plate the actual serving size we thought things were going to be. So there would be the lines, but then we would also mark in the points value of the whole meal, and then we would track it then and there. So for us, it was the Saturday before Thanksgiving, so that we'd track our day. It would take our weeklies from that Thursday, and it was just a burden off of our plate. I mean, then of course you had to then eat what you planned on eating at Thanksgiving, and not, do your best to not eat other things. But you had a plan, and knowing that going into the day was always really reassuring.
Yeah.
I want to say something. That pumpkin pie in the app, they have it listed as 17 points on green. That's green.
Okay.
And they also have a recipe. WW has a recipe for a crustless pumpkin pie. They also have a recipe for a regular pie, but it's made with phyllo dough. So that's not a regular pie. But still, if you're really working on it this year, the crustless pumpkin pie on green is 5.
Ooh,
and the phyllo dough pumpkin pie is 6 smart points.
Not bad at all.
That's not bad at all. So it can be done. It's just looking at a different way of doing it. Actually, I think that this crustless pumpkin pie is my recipe. Sorry, that's not in there. That's mine. But still,
shameless plug.
I'm looking at it because this thing is gluten-free and dairy-free, and I think this could be mine.
Sounds about right.
But I do agree with
you're right.
What Rikki said is true. I guess the way that if you can put it in, what Erin said, if you can pre-track it and think about it for later on in the week. I guess I thought about it for the week. I never had put it into the tracker to say, okay, well, I'm going to have my caramel ribbon crunch on Thursday. Let me go ahead and pre-track it. So it's already taken from my budget, so that when I'm looking and starting the week, you're like, okay, I might not have as many for the weekend because I pre-tracked this thing, but I'm excited for Thursday. I'm excited for the day that I get to have it.
Yeah. I'm totally going to try that this week.
I sometimes game changer. I sometimes do it on Saturdays for Five Guys, because to me, I can go to Five Guys most times and not do fries. But I will say that when I go with my parents, we always get a medium fry, and then we split it 3 ways. And I'm like, no, I really want the fries then, for some reason. Maybe it's because they're right there. But I always get my burger in a bowl. And listen, there's nothing like being able to pick up a burger and bite into it. I really think that's how burgers are meant to be eaten.
Yes.
But Five Guys, if you get the burger in a bowl, you can ask for the extra lettuce, extra tomato. I get extra lettuce, extra tomatoes, grilled onions, and some pickles. And then I bring my own salad dressing with me to put on top. And I do the Ken's Light Thousand Island. So it's like eating a Big Mac kind of salad. And it's so yummy. It's so good because the Ken's is 3 smart points for the dressing for it. And it makes me so happy.
It sounds good.
Never thought of that. I love Five Guys. That's why I was like, hold on, tell me more.
Yeah, it's a burger salad. And I'm down with burger salads. I'm okay with that. That makes me happy. Not as happy as picking it up and biting into that thing, but it's the next best thing.
And it's a choice you make.
And if you wanted to, you didn't have the gluten-free, not to say you couldn't do it, Erin, with a gluten-free bun, but if you were okay with I've been on a 647 bread kick, and it's so hard to find. I think just maybe because I don't go to Wegmans because it's not one like super, super close to me, but at least at Harris Teeter it's hard to find. But 647, I think it's either 1 or 2 points for because they have buns now. I know the bread slice 2 for the buns. So they have hot dog buns and they have hamburger buns. So for 2 points, you could sneak, just like you sneak that sauce in there, you could sneak a bun in there if you're going to Five Guys or if you're going to Shake Shack or something. And, it may not be toasted. It's not exactly the same, but I feel like I would be cool with making that substitution and saving. I mean, how many points do we think their bun is? At least 5-6 points, I'd imagine, if not more. So saving
butter on it.
And let me tell you what I've been doing, because I actually had burgers twice this week. Five Guys once, and I think it was Shake Shack or something the other time.
And you lost 5 pounds.
And I lost 5 pounds. So amazing. Thank you, WW. But I took off cheese this week. Okay. I made a decision, just a choice. I said, let me just see, because I have to have cheese on my burgers. I have to have a cheeseburger. I said, let me just take the cheese off and see how it feels. And, you load it up with the veggies and stuff. And I didn't miss it. I did not miss the cheese. And that's major, because it shows you how something that you're just so determined that it's going to change. I really was more maybe wanting the meat part and maybe the Shake Shack sauce, or, those were the things that were important to me. But like Rikki's saying, the substituting of the bread may not be the thing that makes the burger for me. Mm-hmm. But for me, the cheese wasn't the thing I wanted. I just wanted the red meat. And I was able to have it and felt great. So I just wanted to mention that, because I was so proud, and I saved myself 4 points or, whatever it was, and, moved on.
And those are the choices Candace made this week to lose 4.8 pounds.
And you too can do this. You too can take the cheese off of your burger.
That was a choice, and that was a decision that you made. You weren't forced into it. You weren't feeling like, oh, I've got to scrape points for this or scrape points for that. You're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try that this week. And I think that's the difference between an empowering choice versus forced in choice. Right. And I think sometimes when it comes to the cakes and those things, those feel like forced in choices.
Yes.
And pre-tracking, like Rikki says, like great plate meeting, that's an empowering choice. We're choosing to drop that in there because we're going to have it this week. And I'm not going to I don't want to regret it. I don't want to regret eating this cake because it was good and was prepared with love for me to enjoy. Let's pre-track it.
Game changer, Erin.
Yeah.
You know what? Bravo sticker for you.
Bravo sticker for all of us. The round of applause. All right. Well, we're coming to our end. So let's real quick talk about our goals, thinking forward for the week. And maybe this is just our goal is maybe finding something sweet that we want this week and pre-tracking it a la Great Plate.
Let's Great Plate our week.
Yeah.
Starting today.
I am in. I'm going to do that. Definitely. I think it really did blow my mind. I was like, we don't have to just do that on Thanksgiving.
So what are you guys going to put in the tracker? What are you thinking about? What do you want this week?
I'm all about pumpkin stuff. And one of my challenges this week, I did stay the same this week, but one of my challenges was I baked a whole pumpkin loaf thing. And and my thing was just like we talked about earlier, was I didn't eat all of it in one sitting, but it was gone, the day after I made it. So that was, and it was from Skinny Taste, but 4 points for a very small serving. But when you eat all of it, it's not 4 points. So I'm thinking not to bake it again, because I know that's probably too much of a challenge for me right now, but I probably will put aside points for maybe a slice from Starbucks because they have a pumpkin bread.
I want my Frappuccino. Dang it.
Okay.
I'm going to have my Frap. I'll probably pick the day that I have to go into the office for work, and I'm going to have my Frappuccino. I'm going to go find the points, all 50 points of it. Going to have it.
Do it.
What about you, Erin?
No, I really want some. Okay, Yes, I think I figured it out. I want apple cider, and I really want apple cider donuts.
Ooh.
And I saw a recipe to make a quote unquote giant apple cider donut on Pinterest.
Wow.
But it was really a bundt cake that's covered in cinnamon and sugar and stuff. So I found a gluten-free recipe, and I do want to make that. And there's also if you're an apple cider person, in the WW app for this apple cider braised chicken, that is amazing. And I know that you wouldn't think of putting apple cider and chicken and onions together, but it makes one of the best meals I've ever had in my life.
Say it again.
It's apple cider braised chicken breasts.
And you're going to be sharing this on the group.
It's a WW recipe.
Oh, do they have where? I thought they could share. They have it where you. They don't.
They don't. You've got to have a login to it. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share the recipe along with an encouragement to join WWW and get access to all of WW's helpful recipes.
Great idea.
It's so good. It's so good. So I want apple cider, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make that this week. I haven't told my parents yet. That's what we're having for dinner. That's a little on the crazy side for my family, but we're going to try it.
Okay.
Good game changer. I think we have some really good tools to use this week.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we meet every week and we don't not meet. So
see?
Yay.
Hey, I love you ladies.
Yes.
I wish you a very successful week. And of course, everyone who is listening and watching right now, let us know what your goals are for the week so we can join you in celebrating them and holding each other accountable.
Yes.
And we will
have a good week.
Next week, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
There you go. My grandmother would love it.
Bye.
Bye.